Hey everybody, Seth here with Living Large and Tiny Living, and today we're going to discuss batteries for solar panels. And this kind of goes back to our last discussion of solar panels and how many you'll need for your tiny house at a bare minimum. So we're going to discuss that about batteries today and decide how many batteries we'll need. But deciding on how many batteries also affects how many solar panels we'll need. So these two videos go hand in hand really. But before we start discussing that, let's first go ahead and talk about the different options as far as solar panel batteries go, because you have a couple of choices, and actually you have a wide variety of choices. But there's really two options. There's lithium-ion and there's lead acid. And there's a lot of different variations that don't really affect our discussion, but they will affect how the batteries perform. And I'll give you an example. There are batteries called carbon lead acid batteries, and they're essentially a lead acid battery just with a little bit of carbon introduced to their negative electrode. And that extends the battery's life by giving it more cycles, and it's a kind of interesting battery, but for our discussion it's really not too applicable. So we'll just separate it into lithium-ion and lead acid. We're going to go ahead and start with the pros and cons of lead acid. So lead acid, the biggest benefit is that they're a lot cheaper to get into than the lithium-ion batteries. And they're also more easily recycled as well if you're concerned about that. But they're very heavy, and you can only use 30% of the battery's capacity, meaning for every kilowatt of battery you have in lead acid, you can only use 30% of that, or 300 watts of that battery every day. Because if you start drawing more than that, you'll end up decreasing the life of your battery, and if you go more than, say, 50, you're really going to start hurting the battery. So you have to take that into consideration. So with the lithium-ion, on the other hand, they're much lighter. You can use 100% of the battery's charge, so you can use a kilowatt. If it's a kilowatt battery, you can use that 100% of that. And there's a price to it, and that price is a extravagant cost. As far as what you're looking for and which one you should go with, you're going to have to kind of decide that on your own. But if you're looking to just get some solar power and you're not worried about necessarily powering your entire tiny house, or if you have a lot of room for batteries, then you can go with the lead acid, because you're going to have more batteries and they're going to be heavier, but they will be cheaper with lead acid if you're just trying to get into it. Lithium-ion is also good, but for a different reason. If you're going to be moving around a lot and you don't want that extra weight, you might want to go with the lithium-ion, but they are more expensive. So if you're going to go ahead and put in a bunch of money into the panels and the entire system, then you might want to go with lithium-ion. But again, there's lots of variants, so you will want to look into that, because that does make a pretty big difference on battery performance and cost. So now on to how many batteries you'll need. This is pretty easy to find at a minimum, but then if you want a couple of days worth of battery capacity, that's going to be a little bit more trial and error, and you might not really know until you have solar panels and can read out exactly how much your solar panels are making each day. But we'll start with the minimum, and that's a pretty simple calculation to find. All you need is how many kilowatts you use overnight, because your solar panels will cover all the energy you use during the day, and they should, if you have enough, charge the batteries up as well. So what that allows you to do then is to just have however many batteries you need to get through the night. So you need 2 kilowatts of storage, let's say, overnight. So then we just need enough batteries to cover that. But how do we find how many batteries covers 2 kilowatts? Well, for lithium-ion, it's pretty simple. you can use 100% of a lithium-ion's capacity, so just 2 kilowatts of lithium-ion. If you're going with lead acid, since you're assuming you're only going to draw it down 30%, then you're going to multiply your 2 kilowatts by 3.33, and that gets you 6.67 kilowatts of batteries that you'll need. And that's about it. That gets you how much you'll need. So you need 6.67 kilowatts of lead acid or 2 kilowatts of lithium ion in order to cover that 2 kilowatts that we said we'll have to use at night. Now that'll of course vary from tiny house to tiny house or house to house. But during the day, to try and figure out how many days of electricity you'll want, that does get a little bit more difficult, because on a cloudy day, you're not going to produce nearly as much as a sunny, nice day would produce, but you'll still produce some. And maybe that's 25, maybe that's 50%. I don't know for sure. It depends on how overcast it is, or how rainy it is, or whatever the conditions are. But it will still produce some. So if you want to make sure that you have 2 days worth of storage, then no matter what the conditions that it are, then you'll just have to go ahead and take 2 days worth of energy consumption, and let's say that's 20 kilowatts that you use over the course of 2 days. What you'll do there is use the same calculations as we did previously, and you'll need 20 kilowatts of lithium ion, or you have to take the 20 kilowatts multiplied by 3.33, and then you're going to get 66.7 kilowatts of lead acid. So they're pretty simple calculations to do, but they are a little difficult once you start going over a course of a couple of days, just because you don't know exactly how much sun you'll have. There's another thing that I would like to mention in this video, and it's that you can kind of finagle the numbers a little bit as far as how many solar panels or how many batteries you need. This doesn't apply to the minimum number, because you'll still have to have a minimum number of batteries and a minimum number of solar panels in order to get you through the day. But if you're looking to have a couple days worth of storage, you can kind of mess with that a little bit. And what I mean by that is you can add extra solar panels, or you can add extra batteries and accomplish essentially the same thing. What I mean by that is, if you have a huge bank of batteries and you just have a little bit extra power coming from your solar panels than you use, you can drain down the batteries significantly, and then slowly over the next couple weeks, say, the panels will charge back up the batteries. So you can have a bunch of batteries and a few solar panels. Or you can do the opposite and have a lot of panels and a few batteries. And what that'll allow you to do then is, during a cloudy day, if you have extra panels, hopefully that will produce all you need still, even though it is cloudy and you're not producing at maximum capacity. That will then charge up your batteries and power everything that you need powered. So then you're not having to worry so much about having the extra battery storage. But you have to kind of work with that, because on my tiny house roof, I can only fit about 3 kilowatts worth of panels. So I'm stuck at that limit. Now, it will be power more than I need it to power, but then I have to decide exactly how many batteries I'll need based on that number. Or if I only have a kilowatt or 2 kilowatts up on my roof, maybe I'll have to add more batteries. So you'll have to work with all of that, but it's fairly simple to at least get the bare minimum starting point, and then you can go from there. So hopefully this all helped, and hopefully it's not too confusing or anything like that. I'm trying to break it up into parts, and the next part of the batteries will be in the next video, and I'll talk about how to get kilowatts out of the battery numbers, because if you've looked into batteries already, you'll find that they don't say kilowatts, they say amp hours and volts. So you have to figure out how to convert that and a few other things. So that'll be in the next video, but until then, I hope you have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next video.